Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I am James Ham, Kings Inside for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me, Mr. Sean Cunningham from Fox 40. Sean, what's going on?
So thrilled to be back in Sacramento, even though it's cold. It was cold in the desert, so I think I'm just bringing cold, gloomy weather everywhere I go. But yeah, man, thrilled to be back. This stretch run from the Kings is going to be a fun one, and if you didn't know, now you know, because last night in LA was epic.
Something.
I mean, I don't even. What do you say? I mean, it's funny, James, because like all year we've been talking about like, oh, this is the first time since this, it's the first time since this, and it's like just this continuous theme, like keeping all these tally marks of all these historic things that they've done all season long, and then you get to that game, holy shit, let's go, Jesus,
Holy
Christ.
Jim Bob Boley.
Yeah,
Absolutely wild and crazy. All right, so we had planned on having Brendan Nunez. He had a family situation come up at the last minute and had to bail on us. He was in the chat earlier.
Out for personal reasons. Let's just say that.
Yeah, he's out due to personal reasons. So he'll be back. Oh, just one of those days where something came up at the last second and he wasn't able to make it, which is too bad because this is one of those games that everyone wants to talk about. Everyone wants to. Like, I'm gonna go back this afternoon and rewatch it just because you're watching it play out in like live motion and it's crazy and you're trying to write while you're covering it and it was just absolutely stunning watching this team fight back repeatedly as they go down to LA and take ownership of crypto.com for the fourth time this season with the crazy total, 176, 175. Double
Say
overtime
that again.
win.
Say that one more time.
176 to 175. We're talking about 351 points scored, right? Is my math wrong?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's what that means. That's like, what in the world? Sean, let's just, like, when you're, like, go ahead and tell the story of where you were and how you were watching and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I had to cover spring training this week. I missed the Thursday game against the Trailblazers, and down there covering Giants and A's. A lot of Cactus League action, a lot of local ties, a lot of Kings fans on some of these teams, I might add. But yeah, go down there and coming back, and I'm on a plane, literally touchdown, throw on the DirecTV app because I'm like, is the game still on? I don't even know if it's still on. And I got to watch the last minute of regulation. Got to see all of that while sitting on a plane. This might be a little bit of a flex, but when you carry on a camera, you get to, on certain airlines, you get to pre-board. So I'm like way up in the front, first class kind of feel. And I was probably one of the last people off the plane because I didn't want to move. I literally watched on everything as I'm leaving the plane, going down to baggage claim, watching everything, reacting, and I'm looking around like I'm on people who, a plane who's in Sacramento. I'm looking around. There's people wearing King shirts and they're oblivious. Nobody's even coming up going, oh, what's the score in the game? No one's looking at their phone. Like they just. I thought there'd be more people like looking at their phones or trying to follow this game or noticing that I was looking at it because certainly I was reacting to it with some of these amazing shots, particularly by Malik Monk and some of the defensive. There wasn't a lot of defense, but some of the defense that you saw from De'Aaron Fox, especially down the stretch. So, yeah, man, it was wild. It was wild. Got to kind of talk to a few people and have an evening out, and then this morning just kind of sat by myself and watched the entire game in its entirety. And yeah, man, just unbelievable. I think Kings fans really happy for them, really happy for this team. And it's you're 2 games into the second half, but the second run of this season as you make your postseason run. And what better way to tip it off? And they do it all again on Friday, James, in Sacramento. I already see Kawhi not playing.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Kawhi probably won't play. And it's interesting. The Kings come out and they play 3 games in 4 nights. So they've already gone 2-0 in the first 2. We'll get to the Portland game sometime along the way here while we're discussing all of this. But, they've got a game tomorrow against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They got a game on Tuesday. But then the Kings have another strange break. They have Wednesday, Thursday, and then they play again on Friday. Anytime you can get a 2-day break is huge. So they know what to expect from that Clippers team, who is just loaded. I mean, that Clippers team is incredible, and I love what Fox said after the game. Like, just like, we don't give an f who's over there. Like, and that's the approach you have to take. Like, who cares? I've been hard on Russell Westbrook the last couple of years because I don't think he plays winning basketball. He sure as hell played winning basketball last night. I thought he was absolutely incredible for them. Like, he had his burst. He was like running through people. He was playing within the flow. There wasn't any of these Shackton moments that he's become. Like, they're not even. We can't even call them Shackton moments anymore. They're like Russ West moments. Like that, we almost have to rename the Shackton a fool like name to come up with something for Russell Westbrook because it's him. Like, he's doing, like, last time they played the Kings, didn't he like throw the ball off someone's head and he missed a shot by, like, there were some moments where, you just thought it's not that he can't play anymore. It's that he's not focused anymore. And I thought he was so good. And, there's no way the Clippers can do what they did in that game again on Friday. Maybe the Kings can't either. But the Clippers shot 26 of 45 from three. And I didn't even think the Kings defended them poorly on the perimeter. They just couldn't miss. They had four guys make 5 threes or more. It was just an absolute, like, stunning performance by the Clippers, and they lost.
And 44 combined threes, James. Like, no one was missing.
No, I mean, the Kings hit 18, and a lot of that came down to Monk, like, just going crazy. So, okay, so if you're watching right now on the feed, we're here on YouTube doing a live show. Again, Brendan's not going to join us today. He had something pop up at the last minute, so it's going to be Sean and I. But if you don't mind, give us a thumbs up. That would help.
Sorry, not 2, just 1. I keep messing that up.
Damn it, Sean.
Because it takes it away,
Sean.
right?
And if you are new to the Kings Beat, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would help us. If you're listening, watching on other platforms, give us ratings and reviews and all that stuff. It helps the algorithm. We will have a off the record with Kings Beat happy hour coming up early March. We don't have a date yet, but we'll hit that quickly. But I did something that I don't normally do last night, and part of my 6 quick thoughts after the game, I added a 7th and told people to go to the Kings Beat and subscribe. Yeah, that was pretty incredible. So thanks to all the new subscribers to the Kings Beat. There are a lot of you that joined last night. It's good to see the Kings Beat continue to grow and do all that stuff. So go to thekingsbeat.com, subscribe, become a premium subscriber to get invites to everything, to get all your content sent right to your email box. It really helps us. So, Sean, Malik Monk, like, we've seen this over the last, like, 2 weeks. Like, he had that rut from, like, early December until late January where, like, I'd even made the point at one point that I thought that he was approaching unplayable. And I'll stand by that during that time. Like, you can go back and look at his shooting percentages and everything else. But he's back, and he's playing with that same energy and passion that we saw early in the season that made Mike Brown tell everybody while, like, taking off his shoe that Monk was a 6th man of the year. But, like, watching that back this morning, what was your takeaway from Malik? And he scored 15 through 3 quarters and finished with 45. So he had 30 points between the 2 overtime sessions in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, he made me look like a genius in a way, and it's mainly because earlier that afternoon I was on the radio and was asked about, who's kind of that X factor. I said, people here, I know there's a lot of people who probably disagree when I say it, but I still feel it as much as I did a month into the season, which is that Malik Monk is kind of that most important king. I mean, you know what you're going to get from Fox, you know what you're going to get from Domantas Sabonis, and when Malik Monk doesn't play well, typically the Kings don't either. And when Malik Monk plays well and has that swagger and has that attitude and brings them that identity, they look like world beaters at times. And last night was peak Malik Monk, and good for him. Was thrilled for him. A guy who's, like you said, James, he was going through it. I mean, he's been honest about some of the struggles he had. And I also think that selfishly, like, he's a guy who is such a streaky shooter, and you know this coming in. He's a guy that's known for scoring, so obviously shooting just leaps off the page. But for me, it's even bigger than that. I almost don't care if he scores. Just come out. He rebounds so well at his position. He can lead a charge. He runs so well. He jumps out the building. His defense is actually impactful. It's there's moments where sometimes he can take some chances. My biggest criticism of Malik Monk is when he turns the ball over. That is what he cannot do. You can have a bad shooting night. This team can score with the best of them, obviously, by virtue of them putting him up 176 points last night. And yeah, he scored 45 of them off the bench, but they don't. Like, if he's not scoring, I'm still okay with playing him. The playmaking is fantastic when he's not turning the ball over. I love his two-man game with Sabonis. He's just the one that is sometimes the biggest question mark, because if he doesn't have it, the team doesn't look nearly the way they should look. And I said should for a reason, because that's the identity that they're supposed to have. And you might be able to say Herter as well, who's also gone through it. But everybody, look, it's an 82-game schedule. Everyone's going to go through some moments throughout the season. I think Malik Monk definitely did himself not only a favor in putting his name back in that six-man category and conversation, but boy, it doesn't need to look like that every single night, because that's a career night that he just had, and one for the ages that no one's going to forget. But yeah, to me, he's still that guy, and seeing him and Fox do what they do together is really fun.
Yeah, I mean, we got into this discussion on D'Lo and Casey about like who is the most important guy outside of Fox and Sabonis for this team, and I'll stand by what I said on the radio the other day, very specifically. I don't think it matters who it is. They just need one or two guys to step up every single game, and
great
and
point.
whether it's Fox or it's Herter or it's Keegan, or it's Harrison Barnes, or it's Trey Lyles with one of those weird 24-point games off the bench that he has periodically, or Terrence Davis, who again showed up so big in the Portland game on Friday night. It doesn't really matter. It just has to be somebody. Somebody has to do it, and because Fox and Sabonis have become, I mean, Sabonis has been consistent all season long at 18 to 20 points and, 12 to 16 rebounds and, 6 assists. Like every single game, you can just basically pencil in his stat line. All of a sudden, De'Aaron Fox is, first of all, he's got 6 straight 30-plus point games. But on top of the 6, he's got, there was one game where he scored 16, which was, I believe, his first game back after the baby was born. The 2 games before that, he had 30 plus. The game before that, he had 29. So we're realistically looking at 8 out of his last 9 games where he scored 30. And the one that he didn't, the Kings thumped somebody, and he didn't need to play big, and he didn't need to score 30. It's becoming easy, Sean. It's easy for him to score 30. And we watched him score 40 in this one, which, again, he wasn't great in overtime. You could tell he was running out of steam. And Malik Monk said, "I got you guys," and backpacked him the second overtime with 8 points in the second overtime. But like watching this team evolve from who they were at the beginning of the season, which was a hot mess the first 4 games, to like sort of the ebb and flow of this whole season where they go up and down, but they've periodically like shown that they can improve and get better and better, and it's been fun to watch. I mean, again. A team just scored 176 points. And it's not like overtime sessions are full quarters. They're 5-minute sessions. 176 points, Sean. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just wild.
The game that, I don't know if anyone saw this, maybe not, but the game that this game finished second place to, because it's second all-time, was in 1983, a Detroit win over Denver, 186-184. Okay? That was a triple overtime game. Think about that. Like, it's crazy. Like, scoring is obviously up. But yeah, to your point about De'Aaron, though, you're right. I think Fox has done. We've talked about it. I mean, so many times on this show about the ebbs and flows of him, and whether or not he obviously flips a switch in the fourth quarter and in clutch time, and people have taken advantage of that. But I think this stretch is a little more interesting, and I'll go back to the moment where we found out the coaches didn't pick him for the All-Star team, and at a certain point, even before that, he was already saying, I don't really, it doesn't matter as much as I'd like to be recognized. I've got a baby on the way. Probably be better for me if I don't go. So then he doesn't make it. His teammates react. He just kind of, shrugs it off in a callous and sarcastic way, like he is.
And they were on the road, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then he comes back, doesn't make, and then you get he's playing pretty well. I think everyone's looking forward to the break for sure. Then he finds out that he's going to make the All-Star team as a reserve. That's kind of like it doesn't have the same feel, and I think
a backhanded compliment.
Correct. Or what's it like? I'm trying to think of other analogies, but it's just the one where you're an all-star. Well, that's cute. Like, you got in for whatever. And I'm not saying this, but I think he feels it as well. He feels like I'm an all-star player. It didn't take this to validate me as an all-star, but I think he also has this feeling of like, okay, well, I got in this way. I don't really want to be there. I kind of got my head around that. He goes out, doesn't score. I don't think he totally enjoyed the experience. Fortunately for him, they didn't have this huge busy schedule of all these events that he had to do for him. He was able to enjoy it with friends and family, just like Domas was. I mean, they were able to kind of just chill for the most part, and I think it was good outside of just the one practice and then the game itself. So I think they were able to get as much rest as possible as you can in a very busy event. But surrounding that, he's got his eyes on the prize, which was just snapping this postseason drought, getting into the playoffs, taking advantage of the rest, and here he is putting up these numbers. And James, I think it started in the Portland game. I mean, De'Aaron Fox, and granted, I'm keenly aware that there's no Dame Lillard in that game, a guy who has historically kind of kicked him in the teeth a little bit and every time they play, and then no Jeremy Grant as well in that game. And he comes out in that second half, and there was a fire about him. I even tweeted about it. I was like, De'Aaron Fox is showing his teeth right now. There was an aggressiveness in that game, and it certainly trickled over into last night in L.A. So I like what I see here. I hope, look, every coach and staff that's come in here to Sacramento and had De'Aaron Fox under their belt and at their they're always on him to keep the foot on the pedal. I think this was a different gear. I'm not saying just last night. I'm saying this stretch that he's in, and I think he's had a stretch long enough now of consistent basketball that is really showing a different gear than what we're used to. Hopefully, he can sustain it for this run. But if it takes, like, look, he made fun of himself the other night after, I think it was after Portland. He says, I'm a finesse player. But that finesse player definitely showed his teeth in that game, and I think it trickled over into L.A. And I think that's gonna, if that's the type of player he wants to be, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I think everyone's here for it. I mean, at the end of the day, like, we're watching a player go from, a really, really good French all-star throughout the last couple of seasons to he makes the all-star team to, can he be a superstar? And all of a sudden you're looking at, you're like, okay, wait a sec. We thought that he had kind of capped out. And, like you talked about it before when he didn't get the All-Star nod. And you said, oh, he's not top 20 in scoring. He's not top 20 in assists. Just so you know, he's top 20 in both of those. He's actually top 15 now. And actually, after last night's performance, he's at like 25.3 per game. He might be like top 12 as far as scoring. And it kind of reminds me like the All-Star. You were looking for an analogy. It's kind of like when you're in high school and you ask a girl to a dance and she's like, yeah, I'd really like to go with you, but I'm kind of waiting to make sure that this other person doesn't ask me. And then they come back to you and they're like, okay, well, yeah, I'm ready. Do you still want to go? And you're like, well, not really now. But that's how he was. Like, not really, but that's fine. I guess we'll go. Like, and that's kind of the way that you look at it. You're like, all right, like, I guess they kind of want me there. I wish I would have been part of. But I think what his job is now is to show that, first of all, the All-Star performance was like less than peak De'Aaron.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But it's his goal now is to say, okay, like, look, I showed you I could be an All-Star and you guys barely let me in. I'm going to go storm the place now. Now I'm going to kick the door down and I'm going to go be that guy. And you guys won't have a choice next season I'm going to be an all-star because I'm that good, and you need to have me in the game because I'm one of the best players in the league. And I think it's crazy to watch like the maturation of a player. We watched like the life cycle of DeMarcus Cousins, right? Go from this like 14 and a half and 8 points a game as a rookie, and then you just keep watching him bump up. He too got skipped for the All-Star game the one year, and then even as an injury replacement, he was skipped there too. I think it was Chris Paul that went out and they gave Goran Dragic the nod over him, and he was not happy. And then finally he gets in and he becomes like he solidifies himself as an all-star. I think Fox is in that mode right now. He's solidifying himself as an all-star and who he can be. And what he's doing, like scoring wise, is just absolutely crazy.
But I'll
It's
also say
wild.
that I'll say this. I know I mentioned the kind of the mentality he had about the All Star game. I would like to say quickly though, one has nothing to do with the other. I think honestly, he's been so hyper focused on the play out, the season in general, and the season as a whole, and having success, that like he's dismissive of the All-Star game for a reason, knowing that all he cares about is the season and his team's success and doing what's right for his team. And
And the
so,
fact that he had a pregnant wife and now has
yeah,
a brand new baby that's keeping everyone up at night and all that stuff. Yeah. So, yeah,
yeah, that's all.
that's all.
That's all.
Yeah, I thought, again, like, we started to see, there were two moments. I don't know if you were able to, well, you watched it back today.
Yeah.
Fox flipped up the alley oop to Monk for the
Oh boy.
hammer, and then Monk flipped up the alley oop to Fox for the hammer, and it was fully like Kentucky boys are back. It was super fun to watch, and you're sort of seeing that the whole thing like come together on the fly. I'll also point this out. Kevin Herter was standing up the entire fourth quarter and overtime sessions cheering on his teammates.
That's what you
Sure,
do.
would he like to have played? Did he have a bad game? No, he did not have a bad game. He actually probably would have had 17 points if he would have been left in the game and played the fourth quarter in the overtime sessions. But it didn't matter. He was standing there cheering on his teammates because that's what this team is about. And I kind of felt like we had this moment with Terrence Davis on Friday night, and it was a really, Terrence is one of those guys that's so raw and real that he can't help like be that way, and he plays that way, but he also that's who he is off the court too. And he had this moment where he just started talking about like being during the All-Star break, just like how much it started to sink in that he played for the Kings and he had this chance to do something that no one has done in Sacramento for like almost 2 decades. And you can see him almost like getting emotional. And it was one of the first moments where I felt like Terrence Davis got it where a lot of the players haven't got it. Like we keep having this in this season. It's weird. We have these moments where you're like, well, this team hasn't missed the playoffs for 16 consecutive seasons. A lot of these players just got here. It doesn't like they keep like making this weird, like trying to separate themselves from the 16 seasons of losing. And I don't think that they get that that's fine for an individual player to feel that way. Like, well, it's not my fault. But that's how the fan base feels, that they've had to watch 16 years of bad Sacramento Kings basketball, incompetent basketball, like firings and player switches and, so many coaches and general managers and all this stuff, just chaos. Well, they want this team to feel what they've felt. They want them to connect with the fact that, that Sacramento Kings are lovable losers from the outside. And I thought it was one of those moments where Terrence Davis fully captured it. He got it. And I hope that some of the other guys get it, where they're not just trying to, win it to get Fox there for the first time. They're not trying to win it to get Harrison Barnes back to the playoffs, so maybe he sticks around, or they're not just doing it because they're trying to get to the playoffs for their group of players who, they want to celebrate and they've had a good time this year. I think they really do need to understand what they've put their fan base through and what their fan base has been through, whether it's them or it's other people. It doesn't matter. It's still they're attached to the product, and that product has been a failure and a mess. And now they need to allow the fans to embrace this like like they're embracing it. Does that make
I
sense,
heard,
Sean?
for sure. And I heard those comments from TD. I wasn't there. I had to catch up on them. But it reminded me, James. So when TD gets here, let's go back. I mean, this past summer was really. I mentioned on this podcast. I had a one-on-one with Terrence Davis right before the season started. He was out at the one of the festivals on Capitol Mall. I forget which one it was. Someone in the chat probably will know. But he did a cooking demonstration. It was just a fun little appearance that he did with some kids, and they were doing healthy eating food demonstrations. It was very cool, and it was funny. TD's got just a very great personality, very funny guy, very witty, and he loves interacting with people. And when he got here, he didn't get to have that opportunity. And with people who don't know, if they don't know, I mean, obviously people in this chat, and if you root for the Kings, you definitely know this. The fans are part of the fabric of this organization. And when he gets here and doesn't have the interaction that he's heard of about with the fans, he experienced it for the first time probably that summer when he's finally going into restaurants and finally going out and meeting people and being able to, like, after the demonstration, he did his appearance. He literally just like, okay, great. Let me take off this. Let me just go walk through all this and just kind of go experience it with my lady. And he, they literally were just among the people and being treated great, and he had such a positive moment with them. But he also reminded me of the time he came over from Toronto and how, Sacramento was like this complete fresh start for him. Some of the troubles that he was having, off the floor distractions. You saw it, James. Remember when we were interviewing him for the first time and he's getting emotional about being in Sacramento, being in a new situation, and kind of vindicated a little bit for the situation he was going through. And then here he is, fast forward to now, and he's feeling really good about the situation he is. And he's like, I've got people in front of me. They just brought two guards into the system that are all pretty much a bigger name than I am, and I just got to go out and beat them out again. I've done it once before. I'll do it again. And not that he's beat him out, but he's carving out a niche and a role for himself, and one that's having a very positive impact on this team. And to hear him say that, look, all those players are keenly aware of the drought. Some play for different things, and whatever you use to motivate yourself, TD is a very emotional dude. Like he can go out there and find those moments and feed off of the energy from his teammates in the crowd. So it reminded me of that because it was such a cool moment before the season. I didn't really know him too well before that, just in our interactions that we would have over Zoom. And he's like, yeah, it's the first time I've been out to actually see people and meet with people and interact with people again after the pandemic. And it had a striking it hit him very in a big way, So I like to see that still carried over as the season progresses.
Yeah. Brendan is in the chat, King's Pulse over here in the chat, and says thumbs up, people. So yeah, give us thumbs up if you don't mind. We have a lot of people.
Which ones are? Oh, King's Pulse. Of course it is.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was
200. The King's Pulse podcast. Brendan Nunes. I'll add this too about Terrence Davis. First of all, the game against Portland, it was such a dud, and it was so bad early on. And it was embarrassing. The Kings were just
Can I read the text you sent me?
Throttled. Oh, yeah, go for it.
All right, let me bring it up. So James text messages me while I'm in a freezing desert in Phoenix.
I was on one that night, just so you know.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. And this came in at 7:41. So the game tipped it right after 7, yeah?
Yeah, that was probably early second quarter, probably late first. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go unedited.
Go for it.
As I'm known to do on this podcast because I can't do it on TV or real radio. So I say, quote from James Ham: "You are missing some grade A shit basketball."
I did say that. I did text that. Some grade A shit. You know what? It was. It was horrible. and then Terrence comes in, and you got the full Terrence Davis experience. In 5 minutes, he had 9 points, 3 turnovers, and 2 personal fouls. It was out of control, wild, TD flying around doing crazy things, hitting shots, missing shots, throwing the ball into the stands. It was absolutely wild. It was horrible. I'll even say, during that game, once the Kings started coming back, I never felt like the Kings were going to lose that game. ever. Like there was games last year or the year before, the game with Philadelphia comes to mind where they're missing 5 starters. We could get into a long discussion about the reason why Damian Lillard and Jeremy Grant did not play. They chose not to play in that game, which was weird. And then have Dame Lillard go out after the game and talk about how, oh, no, we're not cashing it in. What are you talking about? Like, oh, you're not. Okay. Well, sorry you had a bad night of travel. We've all had bad nights of travel here and there. So, no, Jim Garfinkel, the Wilcox kids did not get that text. Sorry, Wilcox kids that are out there. Sorry. Anyway, like, it was such bad basketball. I never thought the Kings were going to lose. And there's actually this moment where Drew Eubanks, is that who that is?
Yeah.
He turned around with like a 6-foot baby jump hook, like very Costa Kufis-esque, like little jump hook. And he came up 3 feet short. And I actually laughed really loudly at the shot. Like, and if it was like during the pandemic or it was just like me and Sean and like 8 other people in the building, like the entire court would have heard it. Like it just came out and I was apologetic afterwards. But
Did you really apologized?
Well, I apologized to Sam because he was sitting right next to me, and Matt George, they both were like, that was really loud. And I'm like, sorry about that. Like, when a NBA player goes up for a 6-foot baby jump hook and shoots it 3 feet, like, I can't help but laugh.
Was it like Milhouse in The Simpsons? Yeah. Is that how it went?
No, it was like a very loud laugh. Like I didn't snort or anything, but it was a loud laugh. Anyway, that game in itself was like, I felt like, it was never going to go the way of the Trailblazers. What they were doing to score with Nasir Little, like hitting every single shot from the perimeter, it just wasn't sustainable. And it was like, okay, the Kings are going to be fine here. Anyway, but it played into the larger picture of like the Terrence Davis thing. I want to go back to the Clippers game now, though, because like, was I too hard on Tony Brothers? Like, did you, when you're watching it back? I don't know what was happening. It's been happening for a couple of years with Tony Brothers, but he was so incredibly horrible that I don't know how else to like. I mean, the 2 fouls on Sabonis, which jumped him from 3 to 5, just touch fouls here, touch fouls there. Like, right. It was almost like he had no idea what he was doing at all. And either that or it was very purposeful. And, like, I see Meg here in the chat throwing out I think a lot of people felt that way. I don't know what happened there, but it was some of the worst officiating I've ever seen in my entire life. And like, I don't usually call out the officials all game long. I couldn't help it in that game.
I was amused, but I was kind of embarrassed for what was going. I mean, that was silly. And yeah, I don't think there's going to be a fruit basket headed his way from Domantas Sabonis. I'd love to talk to Domas about him, to be honest.
I would too, but Domas is never going to say anything.
No. Well, no, not with the camera.
No, not with the camera on. Yeah, actually, I did talk to Domas the other day and asked him about the thumb, and I'm like, we see that the Keegan's got his thumb sleeve off, like he no longer has to have his thumb taped up, and he's like, yeah, he's like completely different injuries, and I'm like, okay, so. He's like, we got to wait till the off season to see if I'm going to have surgery or not. And I'm like, okay. So we still don't know. The saga of Domantas Sabonis's right thumb is still going to be like an issue that we'll basically have to figure out this summer.
It's basically just pain management, and he's been able to gut through it. It's even taken some hits. I think right before the break, I wondered if it had gotten disrupted a little bit, but everything seems to be fine for the most part, and it's really just pain management. And yeah, I think it's probably something that's going to have to be, I'm not a doctor, but doctor. I do think it's going to be addressed at the end of the year.
Yeah, it will be like whether he needs surgery or not, we'll have to figure it out. And I don't think like the surgery for that is that
No,
extensive.
no, it's
It's
not
like
bad.
but you miss like 4 weeks of action, and he didn't want to miss 4 weeks of action. He thought
No.
that this is a big season for him. It's a big season for the Kings, and he's going to play through it no matter what. I think it's really shocking that despite getting fouling out early in the game, he still finished with 20 points and what was he 21 points and or 20 and 10.
And by the way,
Yeah,
shout out Mezzi, bro. Mezzi was really good when he
he
came back
was
in.
good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Good for
I
him.
added that after my 7 quick thoughts last night. I think he had 9 points or 8 points and 9 rebounds in 21 minutes. He was good. He was active. He was 4-4 from the field. He was impactful. Like play within yourself, and like there's a specific game that each of these guys need to play. And I thought last night might have been one of the like very very good games for even though it wasn't a big night. Trey Lyles had 10 points. Davion Mitchell had 8 points. Terrence Davis had 6. All of those points, those baskets, those moments, like were really really strong, impactful moments. I thought the Kings were
Yeah.
playing really poorly at times, and those guys stepped in, and all of a sudden they started to get the train going on the right track again. So, like, I thought it was we're getting to the point in the program where everyone has to know their role, and they have to try to be a star in their role. It doesn't matter what their role is; just do your role as best as you can possibly do it. And
Was
I'm hoping that that's what we're going to see.
wasn't there a pro wrestler that said that? Know your role and shut the hell up. I don't even know wrestling, but I know that part.
It's
I know
funny.
like yeah, I know like various forms of like just a couple things of wrestling in my mind because wrestling, while I accepted was fake early in my life, and I was like, all right, let me see if I can get beyond this. And I found out that my favorite wrestler at the time was Razor Ramon, and he's not even Cuban because his name is Scott Hall. I'm like, you're even fake about that? I was done with it. Couldn't do it, man.
I'm done with it. I'm
It's
done with it.
over. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Sorry, that was a tangent.
Yeah. Okay, let's hit a couple of things
Deuce and
outside.
Mo are here. What is this?
What? Deuce
See?
and Mo. Yeah, and of course, Deuce is the lover of all things wrestling, as I like to call it.
I know he is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He definitely is a big wrestling fan. He likes to do the walk in like into the arena.
Do
Like
people
play.
still celebrate The Rock if he had that song in Arco Arena?
Oh, I don't know. Would
That's
he get
interesting.
booed? Is that what you're
Oh,
trying
you
to
don't
say?
remember it? The song was incredible. He said the best part about Sacramento is when he leaves Sacramento, and then he had a song basically killing the Kings, and it was great. I mean, it
Well,
was
I can tell
funny. It's
you
very funny from a comedic standpoint, but
the best part about a rock movie is when you turn the channel. That, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
a lot of
It,
flops.
Yeah, there are a lot of flops there. Okay, so let's get to some of the info that's coming out over the last couple of days. First of all, KZ Okpala is being waived by the Kings. It hasn't happened officially. At least I haven't seen it. But KZ Okpala he's going to undergo knee surgery, and he has like bilateral knee soreness, which means both knees, basically. I'm not sure what happened with him because it kind of came up out of nowhere when he went to the G League, and so the Kings are waiving him. He is undergoing surgery. Like hope everything goes well for KZ. He's 23 years old. He's got plenty of basketball left in him. This does not preclude the Kings from coming back around next season and bringing KZ back. But they are re-signing PJ Dozier for the remainder of the season. Dozier, of course, signed two 10-day contracts in January. You're not allowed by NBA rules to sign a third 10-day contract. But after he played his two 10-day contracts with the Kings, he went back to the G League and has clearly got the message of what he needed to do to get back to the league. And at the G League level, he's been absolutely incredible. A couple of 30-point games. I don't know, Sean, what do you think? It adds length and athleticism at the wing. We're not talking about like a Matisse Thybulle type defender, but we are talking about a player who can actually do quite a few things. He can play on both sides of the ball. He knows Jordi Fernandez really well from their time together in Denver. A solid defensive player that could potentially play a role in this team if someone gets hurt or we see something, kind of a slip up here.
Yeah, I mean that's the stuff that we've known about him, but getting him on the court is an entirely different thing. So, I think it's a little interesting. Bring in some guy who's got a little bit of familiarity with you because of his, as you mentioned, the 2 stints that he had earlier. So, I don't know what to think of it. I don't know that it's gonna. I mean, look, KZ wasn't really playing. He had some moments, obviously, but
Started the first 3 games of the season.
yeah, and they didn't win those games. So, like, there was there's a lot of things that kind of play, but I think familiarity is something that this team is really, really diving. Kind of. That's at the core of everything is having familiarity, not disrupting chemistry, not disrupting this this winning feeling that they have. So I'm for it if they're good with it. Let's see what transpires, and you got the roster spot filled at this point. So
yeah, I mean the Kings still have potential roster openings that they could figure out here. They have until March 1st to sign somebody that could actually play on the playoff roster. I've had conversations within the walls over the last couple of days, and the Kings are very keyed into the buyout market, but I don't think there was anyone that really jumps off the page. And sort of one of the lines I heard was, well, like if we sign someone, who are they going to play over? And it's got to be someone who's playing that fits a role and it's just perfect for what you're doing and can actually improve your roster without messing with the team unity. Like whether the Kings make a move between now and like a couple of days from now, that's unknown. But it's a very distinct possibility that they could still look at the buyout market and make one more move here. With guys like Alex Len who aren't playing at all, who could be a buyout candidate, and you can open up a roster spot. Not to single out Alex, but Alex had barely played the entire season, and I'm not sure that there's really a home for him in Sacramento. It was certainly not past this season, but even like down the stretch, he's just not playing. So I wouldn't be shocked. Sean, would you be shocked if they made one like small adjustment here?
No. To be honest, I was a little surprised they went after PJ Dozier. And again, that's somebody that they could cut in 5 minutes if they wanted to, but to bring in anybody else that they wanted. But I figured that they would go into a direction. I think there's a lot of little funny things at play too, because sometimes people want guarantees beyond, even if guarantees beyond the season, who knows? So they're not trying to touch next season with anybody who's on the buyout market. That's for sure.
Yeah. They definitely have their eyes open. And the buyout market, I think it's slightly more complex than what people think. Like
it very much is.
Yeah, there is a point where like teams around the league are like, hey, we're considering buying this person out. Is anyone interested? Because what you don't want to do is buy someone out and then have that be like the end of their career and then not use a roster spot. So, or have it be a situation where, you buy, let's say Alex Len, you buy Alex Len out. Alex Len might not get another job in the NBA.
Right.
Not this season, but also not next season or the season after. That might be it for Alex Len. So would you prefer just to keep Alex Len around as a practice player if you're not going to make a move? Yeah, you would. So it really does come down to if there's interest in Alex Len out there and you kind of put it out there that like we could do a buyout with Alex Len if anyone is interested, that's when, a team could go, yeah, we're interested. Go ahead and waive him and we'll jump on board with that. And I know that because there are players out there that the Kings maybe have that feeling towards that, whether someone would get bought out by another team or not.
In the comments section, Kings Guru with a good point there about March 1st, if you want to highlight that.
Yeah. Let's see. Kings Guru. The March 1st deadline only applies to players outside the organization. The Kings wanted to sign Nemi for the rest of the season. On March 15th, they could do that and be playoff eligible. Yeah. It's only for bringing in players. A player has to be on your roster from the outside by March 1st in order to be playoff eligible. We saw this play out a couple of years ago just because it was brought up by Kings Guru. Omri Caspi was actually waived right near the end of the season so the Warriors could convert, who was that? Quinn Cook or
I forget who it was.
Maybe it was Juan Toscano Anderson. It was somebody. They converted from a G League or a two-way to a regular roster player, because two-way players are not eligible for the playoffs. So, yeah, just kind of an interesting thing. And, people keep bringing this up in the chat, so I'm going to address it. DeMarcus Cousins. Yeah, I hate to say this. I like DeMarcus, but DeMarcus Cousins ain't walking through that door. Like
Now
the
I hope
Kings.
it happens. Now I
Yeah.
hope it happens.
Well, if it does, it does. But like,
No, I'm kidding.
yeah, that's not happening. Like, the Kings aren't going to risk their team unity on DeMarcus Cousins. It doesn't matter how good of an athlete he was at one time. He's a player who I don't know. Did anyone notice that the Milwaukee Bucks? First of all, they waived him, Cousins, after he had like 15 and 10 one night. They waived him after the game, and that's when he went to Denver. But they also went out and signed, why am I drawing a blank? Myers Leonard this week. And I think Cousins had a oh wow tweet or something like that corresponded with that. Anyway, yeah, it like finding a player to get bought out and all that stuff at this point is like, maybe there is a player out there that fits what the Kings want and are looking to do, but there's also a possibility that there's not someone out there. Let's get to another like random one, Sasha Vezenkov. We talked about Sasha a little bit last week. Well, earlier in the week, we talked about Sasha because Jay Triano had gone to Greece to go watch him play and kind of scout him. I did get some intel on that, which I thought was interesting. So basically, the Kings are very interested in bringing Sasha Vezenkov over next summer. Very interested. And they do have the mechanisms in place to do that, from what I've been told. Whether that means that he will come over or not is realistically, it's going to come down to whether he wants to come over or not. He does have a buyout, an NBA buyout, but it's like 1.2 million, something like that, 1.5 million. So the Kings can spend almost $1 million on a buyout for him, and then he would have to come up with the rest of the money, which wouldn't be a problem because he'd be getting a contract with the Kings. And whether that's like a league minimum contract, which is what I think they were hoping to get him under this last season, which is why they gave Malik Monk all but like 1.67 million of the mid-level. They left enough that they could actually give Sasha a longer term, like starting at the league minimum. But the Kings are super, super interested in him, and they don't know what he'll be as a player, just like we don't know what he'll be as a player. But he's playing really, really, really well in Europe, is probably the European MVP at this point.
Again.
Yeah. He's averaging, I looked it up today, he's averaging 18.5, 7.6 rebounds. He's shooting like 42 point something percent from three. And that's just in the Euro League. In the Greek League, his points per game were down a little bit because, again, European players, they don't play nearly as many minutes typically. But he was shooting like 46%, 47%. The reason they sent Jay Triano over there was to just touch base and get some, like some conversations with him and make sure that he knows he's loved by the organization here, that they have interest in him. And Jay Triano and his significant other got a free trip to Greece during the All-Star break, which I don't know if you saw Jay, but Jay looks very tan. He got to go to Crete. While it's freezing and cold out here, he was over in Greece hanging out talking to Sasha Vezenkov.
It's like I said, Jay Triano won the All-Star break. He won for sure. And that's why I said, that's why I said very confident. I mean, that they're banking on him being here next year, and you just outlined every reason why. That they love him. That's something that they're prepared to do, and they feel very good about having him over here. In fact, that's why decisions are made, in terms of player movement and maybe trade deadline and all those things. It's like that is all bared in mind for what lies ahead for the summer because they're banking on having him.
Yep. They have a lot of interest, and I would be surprised if it's really going to come down to whether he wants to be a role player in the NBA or whether he wants to be a star in Europe. If he really wants to check his NBA game, and he had an option to go to the NBA a couple of years ago, and I've heard that he regretted not doing that. But the option is going to be there for him to come over this summer as well. I'll also bring up like there are other players in Europe that might be intriguing to bring back to the game, and there could be a market there for the Kings as well.
Oh, like?
But we'll let that one sit. But there's a player or two over there that might actually make sense. And I think the Kings think highly of Sasha, and they hope that he's coming over. But if he doesn't, they do have other options.
Can I say this?
Yeah,
I'm not so sure of that.
not so sure of what.
Of those players that may be over there who want to come back in terms of what type of impact and
whether they be any good or not.
I would not be so.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Nemanja. I'm not talking about Chima.
No.
I'm talking about someone else that I've heard that might have ties to the Sacramento Kings. Let's get to another big thing. We're gonna run this show about an hour, so we've only got about 10 minutes here. So if you have questions, throw them in right now into the queue. But Sean's got a busy day. I've got a busy day, and we've got other stuff going. But tomorrow, Gary Gerald will call his 3,000th game as the voice of the Sacramento Kings. Thoughts?
Unbelievable, outstanding. Love G-Man. Couldn't I just wish that game was in Sacramento so I could give him a hug and pat on the back and give him all his flowers. So good for. I mean, it's fantastic for him. I remember every little milestone he's had, and every time he's done it, we've ended up doing a story on it. So always love anything great that happens to G-Man. I say it all the time. Hey, Kings organization, retire his mic while he's still at the job and doing things at a high level, and retire that mic, put a banner up in the rafters for him, or retire the media room, call it the Gary Gerald media room, whatever you want to do, but something to honor the man while we can still enjoy his presence while calling these games.
Yeah, just people who have never had the privilege of meeting Gary Gerald, he's really one of the most amazing dudes you'll ever run into. Just a spectacular human being from top to bottom. Sean and I have had the privilege of getting to know not only Gary but also Jerry, and they're both just tremendous human beings. And for every bit that you love listening to them on TV or on the radio, you would enjoy them off the court just as much or more. They're just spectacular. And so super excited for G-Man. Maybe we'll get him on another happy hour. He came on the happy hour one time, and it was spectacular.
Did he drink? Was he swirling some cognac? That
he doesn't drink like that.
I want to see G-Man. We used to joke that he pregame back at Arco, because sometimes we'd have him get interviews with players on the radio side pregame for the broadcast, and he'd sometimes do so for a guy like Chris Webber when it was he was sitting in the hot tub. Not that G-Man was, but that's how the interview would take place with the player in the hot tub. So we called it G-Man Celebrity Hot Tub. So I don't know if he was aware of that, but we were.
You were aware of it. Let's see. Do we have any other questions here before we get to? We could do the business of basketball.
Oh, what do you got?
Yeah, Sean. The Kings have come out and rattled off a pair of wins here to open the post All-Star schedule.
The home stretch.
The home stretch. So now there's 23 games left. I think now they have the fifth highest win strength of schedule after the game last night. They currently have the number one rated offense in the NBA at 117.9, which is absolutely crazy, like historically good. Sean, number one, are you surprised that they came out? Like, I was hoping that they would split. But now that they've got to split, they've got like a 2.5 game lead up on the Clippers. They're showing signs that they've got some fight in them. What would you predict? What's your, I don't know. I don't want to do maybe season win total, but we've got 23 games. What would you kind of be surprised if their record was for this last 23 games, considering that in my 12, this is my 13th season. This is the second highest win total ever in my 13th season. They just
Yeah.
surpassed the George Karl year of 33 wins.
Well, and I think they just eclipsed the Vegas odds as well. Vegas, whatever Vegas had.
Oh,
for
yeah, it
them
was
coming into
33
the
and a half.
season.
You're right.
So they
Yeah.
just eclipsed that. So take that, sports books. No, I mean, look,
Suck it, sports books.
You're 34 and 25 right now. My whole thing is I don't really care because I feel like in this stretch you're not going to do much worse. Maybe a game, maybe 2 games less than 500. And I think you've already built up so much. I like always call it equity. You've already built up such a great win total over 500 that I can't really picture this team falling out of 6th. Certainly it can happen. I just don't see it happening, even with the strength of schedule. So even if they go around 500 and play that out, I don't know what that would translate in terms of numbers and record, but at worst case, I see them probably going 500 basketball the rest of the way. And if they can do that, I mean, they've already done it for a significant portion of the season. You're over 50 games as it is. This is who they are. So the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. So I'm going to believe it.
Okay. Yeah, they're 9 games
So
over
yeah,
500.
It's a way.
So
I don't
you're
really have a
thinking
number.
You're thinking 45, 46 wins.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because that's 11 and 12 or 12 and 11.
Sure. That'll work.
Okay. I will agree with you with one caveat.
Let's put it this way, by the way, way higher than anything I predicted before the season, right?
Yeah.
We're already there.
Yeah.
I was higher than Vegas, though.
I'll say this. If there's a way the Kings can get 2 wins against OKC right here, I think
sounds logical because no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for at least tomorrow's game. He's out, so
okay.
That's already a one that you're going to go in there thinking you better win.
I'm going to say if they can get these 2 wins right here, I'm going to put them at 48 wins for the season. If they split, I'll go 47. If they lose both, then it's going to be like a wild shootout down the stretch. This is, to me, it's a big 2 games. And then because you've got a lot of good quality games coming up. You've got the Clippers again on Friday with a back-to-back at home against Minnesota. That should be like a defining game. You got the Pelicans coming up. There's a lot of really highly competitive games here. I think it's great. I think it's great for the Kings to be in this position, but also to have this opportunity to fight it out and really put their stamp on the season. And for the first time in all the time I've covered them, they control their own destiny. They've said that before, and they really didn't. They didn't control their own destiny. This time, they actually control their own destiny. And
What do you mean they didn't? What do you mean they didn't control their own destiny before?
There were so many times where if we take care of business, we can make it, and we control our own destiny.
Well,
and every time
true.
I looked at them, man, they're literally 2 teams ahead of you. You don't control your own destiny. This is one time where they do.
Yeah, but the point being that in terms of making the postseason run, it's you still control your own destiny. You just didn't. You weren't in control of your own destiny at the end of the day. So you failed to control your destiny, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
Anyone has the ability to control their own destiny. It's just whether or not you can do it or not.
It was just that they were saying that really late in the season when there was no way for them to control their destiny. Hey, you really don't control your own destiny. Even the season where the bubble season, even if
they fell apart, man.
Yeah. So,
and kudos
okay,
to those teams that didn't. They went out there and put the clamps on them. So
yeah. All right, Sean, do you have any final thoughts?
Baseball's back, buddy.
I love baseball,
and it's already off to a shitty start. Did you see the pitch clock and how it affected that game? It was bases loaded, full count. The batter took too long, and it resulted in a strike, and the inning was over.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
I tweeted it. It's just this is not the solution. I know this is Kings talk, but that's been on my mind all day, and I know it's spring training, and they're going to whatever. They got to figure that out because of all the stuff that they just need to figure that out. That's crazy.
Yeah. I'll answer one quick question. Hector, how much you all think playoff tickets will cost? I think historically... No, as regular season tickets?
About the same from a face value standpoint. I mean,
no, they're about 25 to 30%
a little
higher.
more.
Yeah, but you also, for season ticket holders, they're going to want like at least the first 2 rounds, but probably the
No, you got to
first.
pay all the way through, don't you? Don't you have
Yeah,
to pay as
it
yeah.
depends. It depends on the team, but most of the time they want all of it up front. They want all
Yeah.
like 4 rounds. So if you're a season ticket holder, you basically are going to double your season ticket prices
But and
to go
again, if
through
it
the
does,
playoffs.
you'll get it back because if they don't go as far as obviously you're paying for. But no, that's just how any team does it. I don't want to think that I don't want anyone to think that that's just a Kings thing. That's how every team does it, where you're going
Yeah.
to pay throughout the playoffs. I think season ticket holders know that. But what I was talking about in terms of look, there's tickets available for the Clippers. There's tickets available for other games coming up. You've got your plans that have some tickets are higher than others depending on the opponent. Playoffs come around, it's a premium opponent, so they'll price it accurate. They'll price it comparatively. So
Yeah, it's going to be expensive. But, and if you want to catch a game the rest of the season, man, they are super close to sold out almost the rest of the season. I know groups ticket sales usually have some hiding. So if you can get a group of like 6 or 8 people, they have tickets. And right now, I think they're finishing off with no fees. So jump on board with no fees. All right, Sean, do you have any final thoughts besides baseball being back?
besides baseball, no, I don't. I'm looking forward though that I'm happy that February is almost over because there were like no home games. So this is going to be good to see the Kings back in Golden One Center, and we'll have some NBA basketball to be around on a semi-regular basis. Even though there's not many, it's just more than what we had in February.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. Okay, so we're going to wrap this thing up. If you're still watching, give us a thumbs up if you can. If you're
Please.
not a subscriber, subscribe here. If you're not a subscriber to the King's Beat, go to thekingsbeat.com. Become a premium subscriber and help us out because these things, all this Kings coverage we give you guys, it actually does cost money for us to go do these things. So this is our job, not our fun thing that we do. Outside of that, let me think. We'll have Brendan back this week.
Get well, Brendan. Or
Yeah,
well, we weren't sick, but
he's not sick.
he's probably sick of the day.
Yeah, yeah. And thanks for tuning in to the show and to all the content that we're producing. Sean did an amazing job at All-Star Weekend, which
Thanks,
is why
man.
I tweeted out your stuff nonstop and made sure
Can
that
I promo something real quick on
Yeah.
40? I didn't put it up yet. We aired it last night, but I want to put it on social media in case people didn't watch it as it aired. But I mentioned some Kings fans on the Giants, guys like Logan Webb, Sammy Long, them excited. Like they're literally they locker right next to each other in the clubhouse and just so excited for the Kings' success, and they'd love to light the beam, and it's a whole lot of beam talk with them, dude. It's funny. It's really cool.
Okay. Yeah, let's
Logan's
get that out there. Yeah.
Logan, I remember walking up to cover a Rockland Thunder football practice, and he's just on the sidelines. I didn't even know him at the time. He just looks at me and says, "Hey, the Kings going to be good this year." It's been the same ever since. He watches every game in its entirety and sometimes twice, and a lot of the Giants teammates are like, "We don't care." So it's kind of funny.
Yes. Not all baseball players are going to like basketball.
Well, they just
Okay.
don't like the Kings, so
They do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. For those of you who did not watch the game on Friday night, go figure out where to watch it again. Go search your DVR. Go figure it's an all-time
I think
classic.
NBA TV is going to run it. Did I not see that? I thought I saw something about
and we
it.
almost missed that. The Kings have been granted a TNT game.
Right,
The
right,
Knicks
right,
game has been converted to a TNT game. So that's amazing and super exciting. We will have another happy hour coming up soon. Probably going to be early March, but I will get that out there as soon as possible. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, crazy couple of months of Kings coverage. So
Someone
thanks.
asked also what soiree I'm attending tonight.
Oh,
I'll be out. I'll be out and about.
you're going to be out and about? You're going to be out there?
Oh, yeah.
I'll probably
be in the
go
streets.
have dinner tonight somewhere with the wife. Yeah, I think so.
Aren't you snowed in? Do you not have like a foot of snow outside
No,
your?
the snow went away. I'm so
palatial
bummed.
estate?
Man, I love the snow. I love the snow. And here where I live, it only lasts like a couple hours and then it's gone. So the boys did. The high schooler did get a snow day, which is the best thing of all time. Snow days. There's nothing worse when you think that you might have a snow day, and then when you wake up the next morning and there's no snow, and you want to go like punch a tree or something. It's like, no, I've got to go to school. So yeah, so I'm excited. My son actually got a snow day in. Okay, that's going to do.
Sorry, Sean might be on a T-shirt soon. I might need that. Not maybe a hoodie. It's probably a hoodie. I wear too many hoodies.
I don't know. I've got that the shot of you that I use as my in my phone. That I think
maybe a midriff.
Yeah. Oh no, bare midriff.
No, that's
Sean
definitely not happening.
midriff.
Sorry
That's
for the
not
visual
happening.
folks.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the King Speed Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, all of that stuff, ratings, reviews. And again, thanks for tuning in. So for Box 40, Sean Cunningham, I am James Ham, your Kings and Zad for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. We'll see you next week.
Bye.